Welcome to Life Today. I'm Randy Robison. I have with me Beth Nimmo, who is the mother of Rachel Scott. And if that name rings a bell, it's because back in the horrible attacks at Columbine High School in Colorado, the first one, the authorities believe that was killed was Rachel Scott. And it's been a tough road, been a long road, but some good things have come out of that. And one of them is the film, I Am Not Ashamed. Opening date October 21st, 2016. So if you're seeing this before that, I would encourage you to get a group together and go see it opening weekend, because in the film world, that's how they measure such things. So let's support the film and get out and see it. If you already missed it, if it's in the theaters, grab it. If it's on TV, on demand, on Netflix, wherever it ends up, just take a moment to watch it. It'll bless you. And it'll also send a message, I think, to Hollywood that says this is the kind of movie we want. And of course, if you are in a church, what a great thing to show to your youth, standing up for Christ. So, after all that, let's talk to Beth. Glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
I have a couple of things with me here,
Sure.
books that are available, Rachel's Tears, and then the journals of Rachel Scott. And I understand that the film is based on her journals. Is that right?
It is based on her writings and her journals, which are compiled in both books.
Okay.
This book, the Rachel's Tears, tells the story of that day, basically, and what we found right after. The Orange book, the Journals of Rachel Scott, actually is geared towards young people. And we're writing it in third person as if Rachel's writing herself. And we're talking about all the kids and teens issues, you know, drugs, sex, alcohol, you know, all smoking, all the things that they're facing in the world today. And we use her writings, once again, to address these, because she says it better than I can.
Yeah, just like a teenager would.
Yeah. And kids get it, they understand it. And also I encourage parents or grandparents to read. If you don't know the world that your child is living in, pick up a book and read about it, because it's not like what it was when we were being raised.
Yeah.
The environment and the culture has changed everything so radically that now the pressures are instant. And they're continuous.
Yes, they are.
You know, they don't go away. You don't get a reprieve.
No, they follow you home with social media these days,
they're everywhere.
too. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, good point. Before we talk about some of the movie, which you know, I'm a movie junkie, so I like talking about movies. Let me ask about you. How are you doing all these years later?
It's been a long healing process, and I'm glad to say that, and happy or thankful to say that God has really done a good work in our hearts. One of the things that was hardest for me, besides losing Rachel, was the fact that my son, Craig, was in the library that day between two boys that lost their lives. And so he was a shell of a teenager for more than 2 years. And once he kind of turned that corner and we started seeing a little bit of the normal teen things come out, it let me know that we got probably through the hardest period. Still a lot to go through, and but I always said, if my kids do okay, I'll make it. Yeah. You know, as a mother, I can hurt all day long, but when your kids hurt, that doesn't go over so well.
Yeah. How old is he now?
He's 33.
Okay.
And he's been a speaker. He champions Rachel's story as well as his own, and he's worked in film and video, and so a lot of what influenced the two shooters of Columbine was those types of media, which was film and music and you know, clips that they could find, and it fed the anger that they had to keep generating day in, day out in order to keep this falsetto of bravery or whatever you want to call it. You know, they had to, you know, it's the old story, whatever you feed is what grows. And so they had to feed that in order to commit this kind of a heinous act.
Sure, one of the easiest ways is through media.
And so Craig's like, well, two can play that game. We can do the same thing by champion what's good and right and inspiring.
Good for him. Good for him. How was making the movie? Was it hard?
You know, it brought up so many
I bet.
painful parts, but it was so critical to be as authentic as possible with the movie. And in my mind for years, I've kind of had this visual thing of how this was supposed to be played out. Of course, it doesn't exactly
Never
come.
does, but yeah.
But
Are you happy with it?
I
happy with
am,
the film?
because basically I was like, I want these writings and these drawings. You have to create the story around these actual things.
Right.
You know, and we had some very creative writers. One lady gave us the shell of it, and then it got tweaked and rewritten and rewritten.
Sure. Not unusual.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
But they stayed true to
you know
to
what?
her.
They did, and we kind of had to work through that a little bit because
I would expect so.
the Christian world likes to sanitize,
Yes, they do.
for lack of a better word, what we actually experience. We don't want to show kids smoking. We don't want to show them drinking. A Christian kid, somebody that says they love the Lord. But the truth is, I had to show those things because that's where kids live, and those are the temptations that they're faced with, and so it's too real.
Yeah.
And I didn't want a squeaky clean Christian Jesus girl.
Yeah.
I wanted the real Rachel because she struggled with all of those things. And
God
I
bless
wouldn't
you.
have known some of that because she kept it hidden pretty well. But she left it in her journals.
Yeah.
And I was like, we've got to talk about those things. We've got to address them. The church needs to be real about what's happening with our teenagers today.
Well, good for you for standing up.
So I think we hit our target.
The young girl that plays Rachel.
Yes, Macy McLean, amazing.
Yeah.
For one thing, she's very similar to Rachel, just in looks and demeanor and appearance. I love this little girl. She's my new Rachel, and she studied Rachel's writings in her journals during all of the filming, and she literally got inside of Rachel's skin and inside of her head, and she is a spirit-filled Christian, and so that just overflows. It wasn't hard for her to take on the passion and compassion that Rachel had for others and her passion for the Lord.
Being the age she is, she probably wasn't that familiar with Columbine, was she?
No. She would only have been a couple years older than what Rachel was when she died, so no, she was just a baby when all of this happened.
Did making the movie and playing the part impact her, you think?
She said it changed her life. In fact, we got so many stories from the extras and from the crew and from the cast that even people that weren't God-fearing, Jesus-loving actors became very impacted by Rachel's story and working on this film. A lot of the crew members, I heard that even though I was on set for some of it, I mean, it was like a holy reverence. People were being very respectful of this movie and what they did. So there wasn't cursing, there wasn't the bad vibes and a lot of the frustration and everything that can come with that.
I would think when they encounter someone in real life who stood up for her faith at that critical moment, you know, and lost her life, that it has to get your attention. Has to make you wonder, is it really worth, you know, is Jesus worth dying for? And maybe if he's worth dying for, he's worth living for.
And what they experienced is what Rachel was going through. So so many of them, especially if they were coming from the Hollywood settings or era, you know, it is certainly they certainly saw the contrast and the difference from other movie sets they've worked on.
Yeah, no doubt.
And honestly, when we went into this project, we had intercessors every day on set. I mean, we had people praying constantly and fasting for this because it was like, I've got one shot at this, Lord. We've got to get this right. Yeah. You know, and so Benny Prophet, who is my partner in this, he told everybody, he said, this is a holy project, this is a holy assignment, and if you can't, if you can't be respectful of that, you shouldn't be touching this. So he kind of set that platform where they knew they were coming in. They were talking about a true story, and they were talking about a martyr, and the martyr's blood is precious, and you just don't play games with that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you've seen the final cut.
I have.
You're happy with it.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good for you. We can't wait to see it. Okay, I want to hit one more thing before I let you go.
Okay.
And because I know, you went to Africa with Life Outreach International,
I
which
did.
is one of Rachel's dreams.
Yes.
And you've also continued to stay involved in helping others outside the country, yes?
Yes. I've
Tell me-
done a number of travels outside, nothing to the extent of a missions thing, but I have gone overseas, and some of it had related to tragedies and different, like the one in Germany where there was the shooting in the one school.
Oh,
And we went there, been to Scotland. There was a school shooting there.
so you've been to several of the aftermath of
Yes.
school shootings.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I'm actually looking forward to it, doing more missions. One of the outreaches that First Priority Global has is missions. And we're establishing groups of local missionaries, raising up the local youth. And God's doing some good things. So I'm expecting to see a good harvest. The biggest thing I want from the movie isn't the movie itself, Danny. It's to start a movement. Rachel talked about being a warrior for Christ, and what we're trying to do is raise a generation of warriors that literally the kingdom of darkness is shaken with the warriors, the cry of the warrior, and the advance of the warrior, the advance of the kingdom of God. And when you start seeing those things happen, it ignites fire in you, and those that are lukewarm or kind of on the side, a lot of times they catch the vision, and we're really after more than just, this isn't for entertainment.
Right.
This is really for a harvest, for a harvest. The two shooters of Columbine spent months and months planning what they would do. Nobody knew that God was doing the same thing for a number of years, raising up a witness to counteract the darkness and the light, for one event, and yet he left a witness. And so this is all for redemption and for reaching this generation of young people.
Good for you. You can be a part of the movement. Go see the film if you haven't already. Maybe pick up the journals, the books, give them to some young people, some young girls that might be going through some things. I know as a father of 2 teenage girls, I've been there. What's the website for the movie?
I'mNotAshamed.com. They've got a Facebook page.
Okay.
Even if they go to RachelJoyScott.com, right now my site is set up to go straight to the other information.
Yeah.
They can link right up to it.
Okay. So if you're catching this, a year after the movie's out, you can go to Rachel's website. Well, I call it Rachel's website.
It is Rachel's
Is that what
website.
you call it too? Okay. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave it that way
Okay.
and let her name and her legacy live on. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for doing all
Thank you
this.
for having me.
You can see more of Beth on our broadcast program that is available at lifetoday.org. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button because we want to let you know about all the great videos from Life Today.